But have you ever heard of, or do you know much about the Mandela Effect?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just recently learning this term, but now I'm seeing examples of it everywhere. Do you want to explain what the Mandela Effect is?
Yeah, sure. And sort of there's a crafted storyline that goes along with something that embodies some kind of moral or objection or something bad that happened or something good that happened. And then it's believed to be true over a period of time when the original scenario never existed.
So it's almost like people thinking something happened that didn't, but for whatever reason over time.
But everybody thinks it happens from that point forward.
And it could be little things, it could be big things. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I've heard that the reason it's called the Mandela Effect had something to do with Nelson Mandela and when people believed he died versus when he actually died.
Yes.
And it was so far off that
But everybody would swear that the story was the true one because nobody disagreed with it.
Yeah.
And so they just went along with it. Let me give you I'm going to look up the Mandela Effect because I want to do the definition justice here.
Yeah. I had an interesting instance, which I don't even think this is the Mandela Effect, but it was kind of funny. A friend of mine recently was talking about a memory she had when we were in college. And she's like, yeah, I remember running into you on campus. You were telling me you were dating your now husband at the time and how great he was. And then I thought, and I said, I didn't know my husband in college. I didn't meet him till a couple of years after I graduated. And she said she has this perfect memory of what I said, how I described him, everything about him, his name. And I'm like, I didn't meet him in college. And now both of us are like, what has happened here?
Yeah.
On what wavelength did we?
Yeah.
I
so
don't
the
know.
official one, it says vivid and detailed memories of news coverage of South African anti-apartheid leader Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 80s. So it's referred to, and it's usually about something very mundane where nobody really cared enough to look it up to see if it was accurate because it would be silly for it not to be accurate. But then we just go along thinking that the thing happened.
Yeah.
And it never really did.
Yeah. And then do you feel like with that, people can have actual, what they feel are memories that something happened that did not happen?
Yeah. It's a weird phenomenon.
Yes. I've known a couple of people now that have told me stories or instances of things. Again, there is just enough detail to make it plausible. But if you look at different factual information, it couldn't have been possible. So it's like, then where did that memory come from? How is that in your head? I mean, it got to the point where the more she and I talked about it, the more I felt like I was remembering this instance.
Yes.
And I even picture in my head where I think we were standing. But it couldn't have happened. So what happened?
All right, so let's go to Crazy Town for a minute because this is one of my favorite topics.
Crazy Town.
All right, so the multiverse.
Yeah.
Okay? Let's refamiliarize everyone with what the multiverse is. Okay.
Okay.
So you go through your day, and let's just say you make 1,000 decisions. You make 1,000 decisions, and I was going to go this way, but I went this way. The multiverse is basically all of those decisions living in parallel with all other decisions. So an infinite amount of versions of you that are all playing out in their own timelines. So you getting up and not getting up this morning both happened. And there's a Kelin out there that didn't get up this morning, right? That ran a completely different choose your own adventure type of life that day. And they're all stacked on one another, right?
Yeah.
And your perception, right, in this vessel, like you and your inner dialogue and all of your, thoughts and whatever are moving from vessel to vessel. The vessels are still existing because they were all potentialities. But you only lived one of those infinite number of ones, right?
So it's not like there are multiple me's.
But there are multiple you. There are multiple vessels of you.
It's the vessel.
Yeah.
With consciousness?
Consciousness is the question. Does the consciousness, does the Kelin in the other multiverse carry its own consciousness, and it's in competition with the one that you're in right now? So if there's another Kelin in the exact same, in a different plane, but then in the exact same, or real close to what you experienced today, only one decision away, but there's an infinite. So there is a completely different Kelin in a different plane that is making even an infinite amount of different choices.
What happens if the two collide?
Well, that's where all of these phenomenons that are hard to explain, like the Mandela Effect, meaning that there is a parallel universe somewhere where Mandela did die in prison, and if we butt up against one of those, right, and have a perception that exchanges on a multiverse that didn't happen in this parallel, like, so the question is, we know that they are happening, and they know that they are all there, right, and is it possible to visit ones in other multiverses?
Do you think this in any way has anything to do with things like deja vu?
Yes, I do, personally.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because I've heard some people explain deja vu is just your brain at that moment suddenly hyper-focusing on what is happening around you. A lot of times we can sort of just automatically do things and go through our day and not really think about it, but our brain switches into we're just really in the moment thinking about it, noticing it. But then, of course, you have these other things that maybe I dreamt this. Maybe it's another universe. Maybe there's a glitch in the Matrix.
And if there's only like a portion of a degree of separation between you and your version that only made one different choice that day, you can see how you can get really close to the frequencies in the multiverse that's real close to you and pick up on things that, like the butterfly effect,
I was
where
just
they
gonna
were
say, yeah.
You did something early in the day in the other multiverse, and it created a little bit different, but you were close enough to it to perceive something that was only 1 degree away, less than a degree away.